And so, as you can see, this webinar will be recorded. And after the presentation in the next no longer than like a couple days, we will have the slides and the recording and any additional resources available to anybody who is registered. And these resources will also be on the medium and heavy duty mobile charging page that's on massec.com. Just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. So like I said, we're going to be recording this and you're going to get all the resources, but we'd also like it if you could put any questions that you may have in the Q&A box, because we will have plenty of time to answer questions after I've spoken and also after the panelists have spoken, so about like 15 minutes. And then also, if you'd like, you could introduce yourselves in the chat and get to know who else is on the webinar today. So for those of you who have attended part one of this series, we're going to kind of do the same format. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, and I'll go actually to the next slide so we can show you what we're going to talk about. But we're going to talk a little bit about who we are at MassEC. We're going to do an introduction into the program that has kind of precipitated this webinar series. We're going to talk about what mobile charging is, the different use cases, and then jump into our panelists, who are Electric Fish, Nuvera, and SparkCharge, and then have a Q&A session. And before we go any further, I just realized I haven't introduced myself. So my name is Devin DeLibero, and I am the program manager on the Clean Transportation team. And one of the programs I run is the Medium and Heavy Duty Mobile Charging Solutions program. So that's why I'm here today. I am also joined by my colleague, Claire Hazard, who will be in the chat and will be helping us more during the Q&A portion of today's webinar. So without further ado, just want to explain a little bit more about MassEC and who we are. So MassEC is a quasi-state economic development agency dedicated to accelerating the growth of clean energy and climate tech sectors across Massachusetts. Within that, we support investment in early stage climate tech companies and cutting edge research, as well as the deployment of large scale offshore energy, including offshore wind turbine projects. We also support workforce training, from clean energy career awareness to upskilling workers already in the industry. And finally, we support the adoption of existing clean energy technologies in homes, businesses, vehicles, and on our electric grid, which makes up the Accelerating Decarbonization team, which the Clean Transportation team, which I am on, is a subsection. So why are we talking about mobile charging as MassEC, and how did we get the money to fund programs to do that? So we got funding from the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Coordinating Council, also known as EVIC. In 2024, we received about $38 million to increase access to charging infrastructure for various sectors. And EVIC identified mobile charging as a promising technology that can help fleet owners electrify without the need for immediate large-scale investment in charging infrastructure. And that program that we developed is the Medium and Heavy Duty Mobile Charging Solutions program, where we were given just over $5 million to run this program. The program itself will accelerate electrification for 4 medium and heavy duty fleets across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Oh my gosh, Massachusetts. And we will do deployment of mobile charging stations, as well as provide supplemental funding for EV procurement. It is important to note that the program is fully enrolled right now, and we are working with fleets to identify their charging solution, and then hopefully we will see those in operation by the closeout of the year. As far as program goals, they are to increase access to mobile charging and reduce barriers to EV adoption for medium and heavy duty fleet owners. And you will see what those barriers are a little bit later. We also want to pilot a great and innovative mobile charging stations program that can be replicated and scaled across the Commonwealth. And finally, we want to publish resources for medium heavy-duty fleet owners and operators that allow them to implement mobile charging solutions independently. And so the first of those resources is the Mobile Charging Technology Inventory Report, which we have on our website, and which is really the impetus for this webinar here today. So you will hear today from charging manufacturers who are part of this mobile charging technology inventory report. But first, we needed to define what mobile charging is and our definition for that, both in the report and for the program. Because this is such a new space, it really needed its own definition. And because we wanted to include as many different technologies as possible, we wanted to make sure we had a good definition. So our definition of mobile charging is it refers to any type of semi-permanent off-grid and grid flexible charging solution that can be disconnected and transported between locations. The first subset of that is mobile charging, which refers to charging units with smaller footprints, typically occupying a parking space, and can be disconnected and transported between EV charging locations. The second is semi-permanent charging, which are charging solutions that require direct grid or generator connection, and these units are not readily relocatable. And finally, we have charging as a service, or CaaS, which delivers on-demand and scheduled charging solutions for fleets with the supply, installation, and management of mobile charging units operated by the service company. All these definitions and more you can find in the technology inventory report. And then we also want to talk about and address what are the barriers for mobile charging, which again is mentioned during the report itself. So based on previous EV and charging station deployment programs like the Mass Fleet Advisor program, Mass CEC has identified specific problem areas that can be addressed by mobile charging. The first of which is charging station right sizing. So mobile and temporary charging can inform fleet owners about appropriate charging needs prior to permanent charging station installation. So you can figure out how many kilowatts you typically need a week, and do you really need this high-powered DC fast charger, or can you operate with a lower one, and things like that. Next barrier is facility upgrade and infrastructure installation delays. So mobile charging can provide a temporary solution to ensure that vehicles remain operational until charging stations are energized. I would also like to say they don't have to be a temporary solution. They can be a more permanent solution if needed. Next, we have facility ownership structures, where mobile charging stations can provide temporary or longer-term solutions for fleets unable to install permanent infrastructure due to lease agreements. Many fleet owners don't actually own the depots that they are housed in, so they don't always want to make those fast financial improvements in the lease space, and conversely, sometimes the owner does not want those upgrades. And finally, we have grid and/or space constraints, where mobile charging units that don't require connection to the grid and have smaller footprints are preferable for fleets with grid and/or space constraints. And finally, for me, I wanted to pull this decision-making tree out of the technology inventory report to really highlight this, that this will help you choose what kind of mobile charging service or mobile charging solution is the best for you. And then you can go on from there and look at all the different technologies that are offered. Speaking of technologies offered, we have 3 really great panelists here today to talk about their offerings. So first we'll hear from Vince Wong, who is the co-founder and COO of Electric Fish. Then we will hear from Cameron Casper of Nuvera. And finally, we'll round it out with Josh Aviv, who is the founder and CEO of SparkCharge. So Vince, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Devin. Appreciate you having me here today to share more on Electric Fish. As Devin mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders and the COO of Electric Fish, and I'm really excited to talk about our 350 squared solution, which addresses many of the key challenges and opportunities that Devin had highlighted in the presentation. Since founding almost 6 years ago, we came upon this problem of needing to quickly solve these interconnection challenges, but also thinking about the resilience of said infrastructure once it's deployed. And so with that in mind, we devised our award-winning 350 squared and are really excited to walk you through it today. Next slide, please. So we are based in California with operations with team members in Michigan, but we've deployed over the country with key partners, including Hyundai, Burning Man, the National Park Service, Air Force, and many others. And this technology is backed by 5 issued US patents, which cover both hardware design, software, and energy management. And over these, 5.5 odd years, we've been able to, prove out this technology in a number of really key austere environments, uh, deserts, snow, everything in between. And we have really amazing partners, including those at Caltech, California Energy Commission, and some of the national labs as well. Next slide, please. So some of this font got a little bit borked, but well, that's okay. We, wanted to highlight the key value propositions of this technology, which are that, it's able to retrofit into existing grid infrastructure or act entirely independent of it. We talked in the presentation just earlier about semi-permanent solutions. This is a technology that can either operate flexibly as a semi-permanent solution that is grid-tied, or can be very easily detached and trailer mounted to be very simply and frictionlessly deployed around a site. And so what we're able to offer with this technology is the ability to quickly unlock and mobilize hyper-fast EV charging that's up to 350 kilowatts speeds, emergency power. We have 400 kilowatt hours of capacity in each system, and also grid services, which in a market like Massachusetts can be quite lucrative. And I'll speak more about that in a moment. We've already talked about the form factor itself. So it's a containerized system that packs everything you would need into a single device to help avoid trenching, those really expensive and time-intensive grid upgrades, and of course that ability to mount onto a trailer quite nimbly. With our ability to provide fast charging, we're seeing up to 20 miles per minute being achieved with some of those higher performing vehicles. Next slide, please. And so to walk through more of the key enabling technologies underpinning the 350 squared, I want to walk through a couple of facets. And so, as I mentioned, we have a 400 kilowatt hour battery storage system inside of the charger, which is able to operate across this complementary suite of services and use cases. And, we've already talked about the ability to be semi-permanent and off-grid. If semi-permanent is of interest at all, we are able to work with a flexible array of grid inputs ranging from 480, 240 down to 208 without needing to prompt any transformer upgrades. That said, I think the scope for today is more mobile, so we are able to work directly with generators and solar arrays. We have, finishing up on this slide, we have a dual port system, which if one of the ports is being used, we can deliver up to 350 kW. If two ports, we can see up to 200 kW, which is, best in class as far as it goes in terms of throughput. And I think we can go to the next slide. To help manage each of these systems from the customer side, we have a very intuitive, user-friendly dashboard called a Reef, where you're basically able to visualize, the session data over time at different cadences. You're able to not only dive into individual sessions, you can actually control things like pricing where that may be applicable, things like your power limits and the ports. We also have optionally an advertisement screen that can be modified through Reef, where you can upload different content and display material. In some cases, that could be literal advertisements. It could be PSAs if you're a first responder wanting to dispatch emergency evacuation notices. And we recently secured our SOC 2 Type 2 certification to ensure that we're maximizing security and compliance of data handling of your very sensitive data. Next slide, please. As I spoke about a bit earlier, grid services are a largely emerging area in the Commonwealth. And so with grid services, you're able to basically perform your business as usual functions as a fleet and get paid for it. This is something that doesn't exist in every state. It's California, New York, Texas, and Massachusetts. And Massachusetts has some of the more lucrative programs. And our software is called Stargazer, is already configured and has already been monetizing some of these services in Eversource and National Grid territories. That's just part of what our software does. We're also able to manage peak demand to help ensure that you're getting the lowest cost electricity you need if you are tied into the grid. We're also able to manage that battery health on board the charger. So we have a very sophisticated engine, which essentially is able to optimize across these different facets. And there's if you want to be more hands-on, you can actually go in and control some of these settings yourself. Or if you want to be more hands-off, you can set it and forget it with our automated optimization strategy. Next slide, please. We're going to hear from a number of providers, and I think there's definitely room for all types of these approaches. Where we really find ourselves being unique and getting a lot of our customer interests is around these 5 factors. We have this Goldilocks sort of capacity. So you're typically going to see, smaller, best systems or really large ones. That could be a problem if you don't necessarily have the footprint or you don't necessarily have the budget to pay for a larger capacity system. So with our 400 kilowatt hour technology, we believe it's just right. We've already talked a little bit about the patented AI-powered capabilities, which fully enable you to monetize grid services without needing to trade off that energy for charging. You can just do your normal charging and get compensated by not pulling from the grid. These are things that we can immediately enroll you in. We've already talked about permanent, semi-permanent, and mobile capabilities with the system, so it's very flexible in case you change your mind later on and want it to be more semi-permanent. We are industry leading in terms of the fast charging capabilities, delivering up to 350 kW per port. And then, of course, we have the physical real estate on the system itself for digital billboard for whichever messaging, evacuation notices, PSAs, or training materials that you may need. Next slide, please. Uh, This has seen residents with a whole bunch of use cases and in fleet, but some of the key ones that we're starting to support and work with are distribution centers, last mile delivery, and first responders. And all of them have in common the desire to not only overcome their grid constraints, but have extremely fast charging and the resilience to back it as well. And increasingly being able to interoperate with the grid, where there's that, again, big money-making potential. Next slide, please. We are very nimble. We're build and buy America compliant, building and then shipping out of our facility in California. And so for some of you in the Commonwealth, it might take a little bit longer to reach, maybe 5 to 7 business days, depending on traffic. But it's fairly easy for us to deploy and get you going in just a couple of weeks. Next slide, please. And we operate 2 models for fleets. You can either purchase or lease. It's fairly straightforward. You can have the flexibility to convert your lease to a purchase if you like. And yeah, we have first year complimentary O&M and SaaS for the purchase with the ability to extend warranty options for the purchase. And we do a revenue share for the grid services so that we share the upside. And I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. I'm happy to take questions and ideas as they come. And I'm Vince at electricfish.co. I can also put that in the chat. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Vince. I really appreciate it. Just a reminder for everybody who is participating to please put all of your questions in the Q&A. It looks like we're having some issues with the chat, but please do continue to put your stuff in the Q&A and we will get to it towards the end of the presentation. So it looks like our next panelist had a couple tech issues. So Josh, if you don't mind, we're going to skip to your presentation and then go back to um, the middle or initial middle presentation. Let me just click through the slides.
All right.
Thanks, Josh.
No problem. All right. Can everyone see and hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Aviv. I'm the founder and CEO of SparkCharge. At SparkCharge, we are the world's largest off-grid mobile EV charging network. And our slogan is keep fleet charging simple. We really help fleets grow and scale around the world with our mobile charging technology. Next slide, please. So when we say we are, the world's largest mobile EV charging network, we really mean it. We have full charging coverage across the United States. We're available in all 50 states, including Canada and Mexico. We've delivered now, that slide was updated, almost 5 million kilowatt hours of energy delivered. We've done now to date over 150,000 charging sessions, and we've removed, I believe, year to date as of now, close to 1 million gallons of gas removed. And so we are really doing our part to move electrification forward. We are really doing our part to develop and produce clean energy in a way that is sustainable for years and years and years to come. And it's something we're proud of. Next slide, please. So when we talk to a lot of fleets, they often tell us, hey, we've got a ton of trouble getting our vehicles charged. We've got a ton of trouble getting our fleets up and running. We need help. And when we think about it, we like to say we are where problems meet solutions, right? We are a company that is dedicated to helping fleets figure out how to get their vehicles up and going quicker without any long lead times. So fleets often run into long lead times, anywhere from 6 months to 2+ years, waiting for utility delays, waiting for infrastructure to get put in, construction delays. We come in and remove all of that because we're 100% off grid. High upfront investments also scare a lot of fleets away from switching to electric vehicles. While they are saving money on owning EVs, a lot of times they'll also say, well, the infrastructure is going to cost us hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Operational downtime. What do I do if my charging stations go offline? And then what do I do if my fleet scales? If I start with 5 cars and I want to scale to 50 or 100, do I have to do this process all over again, right? And deploy that capital all over again, which can be a big headache. And so at SparkCharge, we like to remove those problems. Next slide, please. So we offer something called charging as a service, which makes fleet EV charging simple, scalable, and fast. Next slide, please. We have our mobile battery trailer, which is what we're here to talk about today. Our mobile battery trailer delivers high-speed, battery-powered EV charging anywhere you need it. What makes it unique is the fact that you have 4 DC fast charging ports, you have a 300 kilowatt hour battery, and you can deploy this anywhere that you need charging. It also fits into a small space. So this unit only takes up 1 parking spot, and you can have 4 DC fast chargers going simultaneously. Next slide, please. When we think about what is mobile battery charging, it's really the fact that now you have a nimble, mobile, scalable DC fast charger that can A, be delivered to your site for EV charging, or it can be brought to your site and then taken away same day. So a lot of times we'll have fleets say, hey, I'm very space constrained, kind of like the picture in this slide here where I don't have a lot of space on my lot. I need to charge a lot of cars. Can you guys show up, bring your mobile battery trailer, charge all my cars, leave, and come back again the next day? And with a mobile battery system that we've deployed, you can do that. You can also leave the mobile battery system on site and swap the energy in and out so that the fleet always has power available to them, giving the flexibility to have a standby or permanent DC fast charger ready to go. No construction delays, 99.9% uptime, zero upfront costs if you're doing a charging as a service model, and it's fully managed. Each port on our mobile DC fast charger can DC fast charge a car at 80 to 100 kilowatts, meaning you're getting DC fast charging speeds to charge vehicles quickly and at scale. There's no power sharing, which means that you can now have one car charging at 80 to 100, or if all four cars are charging, each car is getting 80 to 100 kilowatts, no share or decreasing amongst the ports. All cars are charging at max capability. And we've also future-proofed the unit. So if you come to us and you say, "Hey, Josh, I've got four cars, but I'm really, I really want to get the most amount of charge power out," we can combine all that power into one plug, meaning that you can now DC fast charge a car at speeds of up to 400 kilowatts. So you're getting close to half a megawatt of power. And our customers love that for their heavy duty vehicles, their refuge trucks, their tractor trailers that are going electric. They love that 400 kilowatt capacity, all within the small form factor. So when we think about the recharging capability, a lot of times customers will say, "Hey, how do we recharge your mobile battery trailer? How do we recharge this unit?" And we're excited that we can give you three options. You can plug it into a J1772 outlet. You can plug it into a CCS outlet. So you can literally take it to any Electrify America, ChargePoint, EVgo charging station if you're doing mobile and plug it in and recharge it that way. Or you can hook it up at your site with 480 volt three-phase power, meaning you have complete flexibility over where, when, and how you recharge the unit. And of course, we also offer mobile recharging across the United States where we can handle it for you. Next slide, please. So to get up and going, we like to say you can get charging in 3 easy steps. We work with our partners, we do a walkthrough, we do a site, we meet with your team, we see the amount of vehicles that you would like to have charged. We mobilize a unit, we get you trained on that unit, we deliver that unit, we give you full access through our database and backend so you can see down to the kilowatt hour how much energy is being deployed by that unit and going into each and every car, and then we're ready to go live. Our claim to fame was that we were able to get a fleet up and running in as little as 3 days, fully electrified from beginning to end, charging hundreds of cars a day, with them not having to worry about any infrastructure or any permits or slowdowns. So we would love the opportunity to work with your fleet. We would love an opportunity to show you the technology. We would love an opportunity to work with your teams. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or our team. We're always available. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Josh, for that fantastic presentation. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to try to get the Nuvera person to present. Claire's been working with them in the background. Excuse me while I go back on slides. Okay, and Claire, are we able to promote the Nuvera representative to speak?
Olivia has been promoted.
Perfect.
Olivia, if you can unmute and confirm whether or not you have access on your end, please.
Okay. Okay, Olivia, can you hear us and maybe unmute? Okay. So looks like we will unfortunately not be able to hear from Nuvera today because they've had various technical issues, and so I apologize for that. Hopefully we we'll be able to, figure something out offline with them. And in the meantime, excuse me again while I go through slides, let's talk about questions. And Claire, if you want to come on screen, and panelists, if you also want to come on screen, we can get some of those questions answered.
All right, to kick off the question and answer session, I have a question for both of our panelists. Do you have options for more than a 1-year warranty, as a 1-year warranty for the units might be a deterrent for early adopters?
I'm happy to start off since I think that was after my presentation. So I
Go ahead.
started to answer that in the chat. So, we do have options for extended warranty. And the way we the reason why we do that is to avoid that upfront cost being paid out upfront. It's basically smoothing it out. I think some other solutions might mandate that it's all paid upfront. So this is a way of basically spreading out that cost. Happy to talk more though if there's specific ways that you've seen it done that would be better.
Yep. And on the Spark Charge side, we do offer a 3 to 5 year warranty, depending on which option fits the customer's use case the best. And we do have some customers that their standard TNCs require upwards of an 8 year warranty, and we've been able to accommodate that.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Vince and Josh, for clarifying there. A couple questions for Spark Charge for Josh. When you charge the battery with a DC fast charger, at what power level can the battery charge?
Absolutely. It's actually one of the things that we're really excited about the technology we built. You can DC fast charge this battery at a speed of up to 200 to 250 kW. And so you can basically get it charged, the entire battery in about 1 hour and 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Very impressive, quite quick. And then one more for Spark Charge. How do you charge the 300 kilowatt hour battery system, and how long does this take?
Yep, similar. So you can recharge. How do you charge? Yeah, you can recharge the 300 kilowatt hour battery via J1772. So if you have a simple washer dryer outlet plugged hooked up to a level 1 or level 2 charger, you can plug it in and basically recharge it that way. You can charge it via CCS, so DC fast charge it via CCS at any DC fast charging station, or you can recharge it from the grid at 480 volt three phase or 208 as well. So basically any sort of power that you have, whether it's low power, high power, all the way down to an outlet, you can recharge it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Josh. For all of our panelists today, could you please speak to some of the grid services programs that you are currently participating in? Vince, I know you answered this in the Q&A, but would love to hear you speak a little bit more to that now that we're in the Q&A session.
Sure. Yeah, so Massachusetts has a number of programs that are targeted at demand response. So basically supporting the grid during those periods of grid congestion. And so the whole point is during those peak hours or certain windows, especially in the summer months, you're not pulling directly from the grid. You're just pulling and operating off of, you know, basically off grid. And so we are already enabled and monetizing in Massachusetts, at least. There's the Clean Peak Standard program and also the Connected Solutions program. And there's different flavors of that. For connected solutions, there's daily dispatch and targeted dispatch. We would work with you directly to understand which is a better fit for your needs and also how you're thinking about the grid monetization potential for your fleet. In other states like California, there was the program DSGS, which is potentially not being renewed for next year, but there's other programs such as resource adequacy, which we are also capable of bidding into. And then in New York, we've also monetized in the NY ISO programs. This is their grid operator. I think it's called a DLRP. So these are basically their version of Massachusetts programs. And we'd be happy to speak with you if there's opportunities for your fleets outside of Massachusetts too.
Absolutely. And then on the Spark Charge side, what we've baked into our unit and what just about every customer who hooks it up to the grid is using is peak shaving. So we can basically control our unit to only recharge during certain periods of the day that the partner or customer would like it to be recharged, and then it can discharge at slower or faster rates during the day. And so what we've seen a lot of our partners do is that through our charge management system and through the platform, they've basically trickle charged the unit at night when energy is dirt cheap. And then during the day, when things are getting busy, when their fleets are basically coming back, they're dumping the energy in the battery that they've basically paid pennies for at night, and then using that to charge the vehicles and then trickle charging again. So it's effectively cutting their cost, virtually down to pennies on the dollar for the cost of electricity to charge their car because they're buying it so cheap and then deploying it when energy is extremely high. The other thing that we've started to see in terms of working with the grid is basically we've started to do programs with utilities around how these mobile battery units are basically saving the grid from a lot of strain. So if you think about it, right, if you were to deploy four DC fast chargers and then try and hook them all up to the grid and have them all dump energy at a rate of 100 kW, that is a lot of strain on the grid, especially because there's no battery integration tied in. So being able to basically have four DC fast chargers, all integrated, all tied into a battery, dumping energy at the same time, there is a lot of energy that the grid is basically not having to be strained on because they're using a mobile battery system, and the customers are saving money on that on a daily basis.
Thank you. It's very valuable to hear about the experiences with these other grid service programs. Moving on to another question for both of our panelists. Can you please speak to any emergency response contracts in the event of grid blackouts that you all have? We can start with Vince again.
Sure. So this is a very common request that we get from whether it's utilities, municipalities, and other first responder groups. And so, the capabilities of our system are such that we can island the unit if it is semi-permanently installed. If we are, by default grid tied, we can safely disconnect with an automatic transfer switch to safely provide that backup power for the charging. We can also provide that same power bidirectionally back to the grid in the form of black start capabilities. And we are able to, with our typical connection of 30 kilowatts, provide around 12 hours of backup. So this becomes quite significant when you think about some of these mission critical loads that need to come back online. But the other, I guess, key use case is around if there's down power lines or if there's hurricane, wildfire. Our systems can be very nimbly deployed with enough of that battery storage and fast charging to get these really important fleets back to work.
Sorry, I'm losing connection. What was the question?
The question was, do you offer emergency response contracts in the event of grid blackouts?
Yes. So with some of our partners, they've also requested that while we're doing the charging with the mobile unit, can we have either that unit on standby or another unit on standby to do emergency response? So when it comes to EV charging with some of our partners, basically they can keep that unit charged up, right? And then when, for example, if a bus or a fleet or some of their vehicles go down, this unit, it's lightweight. You can tow it out and basically charge vehicles anywhere where they need you to meet them. And so that's the emergency response plans that we've put together for our partners to keep them nimble.
Great, thank you so much. And now I'm going to pass it to Devin for a question.
Thank you. So we had a clarifying question in the Q&A about what grid connected means, because we've, I think, all talked about charging the unit or energizing the unit from the grid. And so if we could just talk more about that and how that works and, the reasoning that it needs to be grid tied and things like that.
Yeah, I'll jump in on it. So the unit can operate completely standalone, right? Or in island mode. You don't need to have it connected to the grid. The only time you need to have it connected to the grid is if you would like to recharge it, or basically do energy pass through, right? So basically be deploying energy out of the unit while taking energy into the unit, which, you use it like a connected unit, but the unit itself doesn't need to be connected to the grid. A great example during alt wheels yesterday, right? We were able to basically get the unit on a parking lot, no power, charging multiple vehicles throughout the day, completely isolated from the grid. And then when recharging the battery system from other EVSEs somewhere connected to the grid, if it's recharging, then it's using grid power. However, we do have a couple of customers that have gone, I guess you could say, completely off grid. and they are actually recharging the system on solar. And so basically, they have it hooked up to a private solar farm that they have, and they're recharging it off solar. So you can go complete off grid if you want to use solar to recharge the unit and then dump the energy as well.
And I can just jump in on the electric fish side. So yeah, a lot of our existing use cases and customers are primarily grid tied with the optionality to relocate the system as needed. Maybe not on a daily basis, but more on a seasonal basis, or if their lease expires. And so typically we're, again, pretty flexible in the grid inputs we can support. That can be 480, 208, 240, single, three-phase. We're compatible with all of it. But yeah, we do have those entirely off-grid use cases as well that are emerging, where yeah, oh, yeah, where we can basically support off-grid usage as well.
Great, thank you very much. So we just had Cameron join. It looks like his technical difficulties are over. Unfortunately, Cameron, we are in the Q&A portion of the webinar, so would love to keep you on to help answer some questions, but unfortunately we can't do the presentation just quite now. So thank you again for joining. So our next question is specifically for Josh. So says Josh, for the peak shaving use case, what is the benefit of the Spark Charge and others solutions over adding a BESS to a grid-tied site? Josh, you're still muted.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think the benefit is you're getting an all-in-one solution, right? So you're basically getting the battery energy storage system that's automatically tied in to the GZ's fast charging system, right? It's basically an all-in-one system that's ready to roll from day one. The other benefit is the fact that it's mobile, right? So if you have a big containerized battery energy storage system on site, it's basically gonna stay there for eternity, right? There's no flexibility with it. You can't move it to another site. You can't deploy it out with other vehicles. And then once again, right, you're gonna have to do more installation, right, with the charging aspect. With us, it's one ecosystem tied together, built for reliability, built for mobility to service your entire fleet, whether it's off grid or on grid. You're getting all that functionality in one package and a much more affordable solution for your fleet.
Great, thank you. Another question is, what ownership model do you find is most popular with your customers? Vince, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, so we provided both of those options just to provide flexibility, but I think with a lot of fleets, we're seeing that lease is quite popular just to have that flexibility, especially for something that's maybe temporary infrastructure, because they don't know how long they'll need it or how long they'll be maybe at a specific site. We get requests for a lot of shorter term projects that are maybe less than a year. And so something like a lease provides that great optionality. And then, there is that potential if they do want to convert that to a purchase as well. But lease is pretty popular. And I'll just make a comment quickly about the form factor of electric fish, which even though it is a system that can be semi-permanent, it's that same exact form factor. It's a custom built a container design that is trailer mountable and very easily able to be relocated either on a trailer towed or shipped, to different site altogether. So you just wanted to call that out in terms of how we think about the mobility of our system, just in case it wasn't clear.
Perfect. Josh, anything to add?
Absolutely. And this is the what ownership model do you find most popular for your customer?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so we really have we have three primary models. So we basically have charging as a service, which is, I would say, our most popular. And that's basically you only pay per kilowatt hour. So basically, we set it up, we deploy it, we handle all the maintenance on it, we get it going. You just have to worry about growing and scaling your fleet. We're here to be an amazing partner to basically help you grow and scale your fleet. So you only pay per kilowatt hour. And a lot of fleets like that, right? Because basically, zero capex, you're up and running quickly, and you're good to go. Then we have our rental model, which I would say is our second favorite. It's really, basically a flat fee. They rent the unit out. This is really to combat the generator model, which we've seen, where basically, you'll have to pay an exorbitant amount to rent a generator. We opened up our rental model here, I think maybe about 6 months ago, and I would say it's slowly starting to become a favorite, just behind charging as a service. One flat fee, you get the unit, you get set up, and you're ready to go, and you just pay a monthly fee. And then we have the leasing model. The leasing model we've seen work really good for fleets that are saying, hey, we're really seeing this as more of a 2, 3 year horizon. And we basically want to have a lease model where we own it out at the end. We're going to be using it every day. We're going to be transporting it. And so we've opened up that for them as well. So charging as a service, pay per kilowatt hour, rent, pay one flat monthly fee a month, or lease it, and basically own it and pay it off over time over, 2 or 3 years. We offer all three.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Thanks. Next question is, how often do you have to recharge the units typically?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. So if it's hooked up to the grid, you're pretty much set to go. The energy is constantly going in. One of the cool things about our technology, if it's hooked up to the grid, you basically don't have to stop recharging it to charge cars. So you can take energy in as you're sending energy out. So you can have 4 buses, 4 vehicles plugged in, taking energy out as you're putting energy in. If you are isolated, so basically if you're using it in island mode where you're just running off the battery, it completely depends on the SOC of the vehicle that you're charging and how much energy you want to give it. But to give like a standard estimate, if you're going to give each vehicle in your fleet, if you have a bunch of vehicles and you say, hey, I'm going to give each, Ford F-150 Lightning 20 kilowatt hours every day, then you're going to get through about 15 vehicles, right? Before you would need to recharge the unit. So you can get through quite a bit depending on the SOC of the vehicle and basically where your vehicles are and how much energy you want to give to them on a daily basis. But we leave that up to the fleet partner.
Vince, do you want to add anything?
In terms of how often to recharge the unit, or
Yeah.
yeah, I would say, we operate in a similar way where if we're grid tied, that's basically continuously replenishing, and otherwise it's a 400 kilowatt hour storage battery. So I think depending on your sort of loads and daily charging cycles, we could definitely plan, sort of the amount of generation you would need to power that. But ultimately, it's about getting the lowest cost power. This is something that we can enable with our larger battery storage reservoir inside the system. And so we're able to take advantage of, that off-peak pricing if it is grid tied, or if there's that former sort of potentially renewable on-site generation, we can tap into that too. And yeah, we finally also work with tools like Utility API to make sure that we're getting just the best cost pricing.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a few more questions. One is for charging as a service, what is the usual cost per kilowatt hour?
Yeah, so great question. So for charging as a service, the usual cost per kilowatt hour can be as low as 30 to 35 cent, depending on your utilization, how much you're using it, where you're getting your power from. It can be as low as 35 cent a kilowatt hour. I would say more realistically, right, for fleets that are small, you're gonna get somewhere between, call it like 45 to 55 cent a kilowatt hour. That's typically what you're going to see depending on the size of your fleet. And so our goal is always to try and keep everything below the cost of like peak time public charging. And so, I've seen it go as low as 35 cent, but I would say it probably averages around 45, 50 cent a kilowatt hour. And the benefit and the trade-off to that is your fleet stays at your hub. You're not having to do construction. You're not having to install. You're not having to trench, dig, tunnel, do through that whole process. And you're basically paying a cheaper per kilowatt hour weight than if you went to an EVgo or Electrify America.
Nice. Thank you. I will confess we have a very eager colleague in the question and answer. He's asking a lot of good questions today. So we have another one, which is how do you determine the unit size / number of units as customer needs? Is it based on the number of vehicles or operational energy usage?
Yeah. So basically, it's when we were at Alt Wheels the other day, we made this announcement. So, we don't publicize it, but we do a lot of free consulting with our fleet partners, right? So we look at the make, the model, the charge time, the charge curve of your individual vehicles, right? Some vehicles can charge really well up to 60, 70% and then drop off. Some go up to 80%. But basically, before we deploy that unit, the first question we're going to ask you is, hey, how many vehicles are in your fleet and what's the make and model? And then our team does all the heavy lifting from there, right? We basically say, hey, if you've got, um, 4 BYD school buses, right? Battery pack size 200 to 210 kilowatt hours, charge curve ramps up basically and start dropping off at 80. We do all of that work to then say, okay, you're going to need one unit. That one unit's going to charge X amount of buses from 20 to 80%, 60 to 90% every single day, as long as you need it. And we always make sure that our partners are basically well equipped to where they always have enough energy on site. And that's one of our key value, right? Is that you're never without energy, right? So we always look at the math around how much energy does your fleet need? What's the charge curve? And then the final thing that comes in is the charge time. So we might have a fleet that says, hey, I've got a bus fleet and the buses are going to pull out at 5 a.m. They're going to be back at 9 a.m. They're going to go back out again at 1 p.m. They're going to come back again at 5 p.m. and then they're going to stay overnight till 5 a.m. again the next day. And so we need a really high charge curve. We need basically from, 1 p.m. when they come back to 4 p.m. We need all buses charged to 80, 90%. They're driving X amount of miles and then they got to come back. And so we do that math basically for you to determine, do you need one mobile battery, two mobile batteries? Do you need to hook it up to the grid? Do you want us to swap it? We do all of that heavy lifting for you and give you the solution that works best and then get it up and running for you in record time.
Perfect. Vince, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure, I was just gonna leave room for Cameron if he wanted to say anything, but yeah, I think from our side we take a very consultative, collaborative approach as well. Generally, our benchmark is around 15 vehicles supported by one unit in terms of the quick top-offs from lower SOCs to sort of your optimal SOC. We also will take a stock of your fleet vehicle inventory today and also into the future if there are future plans for procurement. Um, Again, ultimately for us, it's all about how can we achieve you the lowest total cost of ownership when it comes to things like your electricity pricing. Again, thanks to our battery storage capabilities and our software integration, we're able to get you, potentially as low as 12 cents per kilowatt hour when we're grid tied, and being able to, pass those savings along to you, the fleet. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's all a matter of, where your fleet is today and where it's going to be tomorrow, in terms of how we work collaboratively in sizing the number of units and ultimately, uh, yeah, the fleet operation.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're pretty close to time. We have 2 questions left. One hopefully should be an easy one. So this is for charging as a service. Can you operate overnight?
Yes, super easy. So yes, we operate charging as a service. It's 24/7. We work with your fleet to determine the best time to show up. We never want to show up unannounced. So we can show up day or night, 24/7, 365, and we have that availability across all locations and across all 50 states here in North America. I think one of the best things with charging as a service is that flexibility. So you can say, hey, Josh, my vehicles, my buses, my fleet, they come in at 5 p.m. They don't go out until 6 a.m. the next day. Can you guys show up and be ready to go? And we can show up at 7 p.m. or we can show up at 5:30 p.m., be ready to go, waiting, plug in, get all your buses ready to go, and then be off your lot, an hour later and your buses are fully charged. A lot of our partners like that flexibility of being able to charge 24/7 because it means that basically when their drivers come in the next day, all they have to do is sit down and drive, right? They don't have to worry about, did the bus forget to be plugged in? Was it preconditioned? How much energy do I have? All of that is on Spark Charge's shoulders. Spark Charge shows up every day, charges every single vehicle, leaves, comes back, does it again, Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, 24/7. All my drivers do is show up and drive. And me, the fleet manager, all I do is grow and scale my fleet. And so that partnership, that availability is something that a lot of our partners take advantage of. We call it the white glove service, and we do it every single day.
Perfect. Okay, we have 3 minutes left, Josh, so I'm going to keep you to it because this last question is for you. So follow up for Josh. When the unit is tied to the grid, what does the connection require? Do you need an EV charger to leave plugged into the mobile unit, or is it more hardwired and requires an electrician?
Yep, it's flexible. So all right, gotta stay short and sweet. So when it's plugged into the grid, right? So for some of our like rental car fleet partners, they literally have it plugged into a outlet, right? That's on a wall, right? So they basically plug it into an outlet that's on a wall, and you're good to go, right? No electrician required. Just plug in and play, and you're up and running. If you want to tie it into 480 volt or 208, then you can do that by just basically using cam locks if you don't want to like completely hardwire it. Some of our partners will use cam locks so that they maintain the mobile capability of it. Unplug the unit and go. When you want to hook it up to the grid, plug the cam locks back up to it, and you're up and running and ready to go. You can hardwire it into the grid, and then you can get an electrician to basically run that power to the unit. Super simple, low cost, ready to go. But basically, yes, you can install an EV charger. If you have one already, you're good to go. You can run cam locks to the unit and basically hook it up to the grid that way, or you can just basically run a permanent install to the unit. All three work perfectly fine.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Josh. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining today. We really appreciate everyone taking the time out of your day, and especially thank you to the panelists for answering all those amazing questions. We do have another webinar in this series coming up in November, where we're going to hear about different mobile charging case studies. So we definitely encourage everybody to register. And again, this link will be sent out in a follow-up email after this presentation. So thank you again to everybody, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.